Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back to our panelists, Arrington, Momo, and Rachel. It's so great to have you back with us, joining us to discuss the topic of challenges. If you weren't with us for episode 1, we suggest you just jump back in there where we talk about and frame what we're going to be learning about in episode 2 and episode 3. And Momo, Rachel, and Arrington shared stories and challenges that they went through as teenagers, and Momo even shared one that is still going on in his life today. It bleeded over into adulthood. And so that's what we're going to speak about today. We're going to talk about where challenges come from, why they're there, and how to deal with them. And then we're going to hear from our amazing panelists on how they dealt with those challenges that they shared in episode 1. Anything to say, guys?
I'm very excited.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
Amazing. So in order for us to completely understand where challenges and why challenges are there and where they came from, we have to kind of go back to the beginning. And this is what the Kabbalists call the creation story. It's pretty deep, and Kabbalists have spoken about it for thousands of years. So many different Kabbalists speak about this specific story, but I'm just going to break it down into something very simple and quick so that we can learn what we want to learn, which is why challenges are there and what we can do to overcome them. So the Kabbalists explain, and we mentioned it in a previous topic, that before this physical world was created, before we were here in bodies, before we were going to school and trying to fit in and trying to please people and trying to be, whatever we are in our lives today, we go way back. There was this force called the light. The light is a creative force. The light is a giving force. The light, all the light wants to do is share and transmit positivity. This is the first force that ever existed. And as you know, in life, if anybody wants to give something, if they love to give, what's the first thing they need, guys?
A vessel.
Something to give.
Like something to give.
That's a kabbalistic term, but in life, if you want to give, you need someone that's going to receive from you, right? So the light had this full-on desire, this force had this full-on desire to share, to give, to bring positivity. So in order to manifest and to share that positivity, the light created a vessel, like Rachel mentioned, or a receiver, someone to take everything that the light wanted to give. And this was what the Kabbalists call the reality of the endless. When you think about movies that you watch that end happily ever after, right? So the couple goes through a whole journey and and then finally they get married and the movie ends, right? They says, this used to be a thing in the 80s and they lived happily ever after. This is what the endless world was. It was someone that wanted to give and some force that wanted to give and some force that wanted to receive. So if you think about it, it literally is the perfect relationship. You just got one person giving, and the other person receiving. Does it sound perfect to you guys?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah, it's not life, but yeah.
It's not life, exactly.
It's unbalanced.
So it definitely is not. It's not balanced. It's definitely not the life that we experience today. Imagine you wake up in the morning, you say, I want a hot chocolate. I want straight A's. I want to be socially accepted by everybody. I want my social anxiety to go away. And all of a sudden, it's all gone. It's not the reality that we live in.
David.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good. It's something that I would sign up for if I had the opportunity to. And actually, I'm just going to mention something. I'm going to take a small aside because Arrington said it sounds pretty good. I was watching a TED Talk, and he basically engaged with the audience. All the audience had like a clicker. And in the TED Talk, he said, I have this machine. And it's basically called the happy machine. I learned this in the psychology of happiness class. And he basically had a brain that was plugged into the machine. And he said, anytime this brain is plugged into the machine, no matter what is going on in your life, you'll feel happy. But there's one catch. You can't be unplugged from the machine once you decide to plug yourself in. I thought that was a super interesting question. And so what he did was he asked the audience and he said, listen, anybody in this audience, I can plug you to my happiness machine. But again, if you get plugged in, you can't get unplugged. You'll never not be happy again. And he took a poll. He said in the audience, please tell me if you would want to be plugged into the machine or not. And I want to hear, I guess it's from
Most
you
people
guys as the
didn't.
panelists. What do you guys think? How many people said yes? How many people said no?
Majority
I
said
don't-
no.
I would say like 95% said no.
Arrington?
I'll take the opposite. I'll say 95% said yes.
He just wants to
So
fight.
Arrington just wants to fight. No. So the answer was 90, I think it was 97% said no.
Well, I don't know.
97% said no.
Yeah, where's my prize?
And 3% said yes. And it was like an interesting, because if you look at all the challenges that you go through, why would someone choose to continue to go through things that don't make them happy? And that's really the lesson of this whole story. And that's really why we're learning this story. And I would just take a moment, even just at home, to think about it for yourself. If you had an option to be plugged in, meaning you're sitting on the couch, you're happy. What would be your motivation to move? You would just sit and just enjoy happiness. There would be no movement. There would be no achievement. There would be no school. There'd be no basketball games. There'd be no friends. No matter where you go, you always feel happy. It's an interesting thought.
It doesn't sound fun.
I think it's
That's
more
why
of
I
a
think
question
you're
of,
one of the people that said no.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a question of like what the source of happiness is. Is happiness, does it require non-happiness in order to be happy?
But it's more than that. It's also challenges help you grow in a sense. Like anytime you overcome a challenge, you feel good about yourself. At least for me, I don't know if anyone can relate to that.
That's
but
what
like,
I mean. Do you need to have a
know?
challenge in order to feel good about yourself, right? To feel that happiness. Does the challenge have to be there?
Yeah,
It's
because
a deep,
how
it's a
else?
deep question.
I think it comes from a sense of accomplishment, the happiness. It's not necessarily that there has to be like this epic battle of a challenge. It could be a small challenge, but as long as you internally feel like you actually overcame something, you went through some sort of trial, the accomplishment feeling translates to happiness. It's not necessarily that the challenge causes happiness, but the accomplishment brings happiness. You know what else could bring happiness? Just being with your loved ones. There was no challenge there, right? But you could still be happy, right? So I just, in terms of the challenge,
I'm gonna actually jump in for a second, Momo, because being with your loved ones, let's just say it's family or brothers or sisters, that relationship is not just good from the beginning.
Yeah,
it's slow. That's the relationship that you went through the most challenges with.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, fair point. Then maybe
but you enjoy it more.
Appreciating the challenges after the fact.
But exactly, you appreciate that because you grew from it, you connected to it, and I think that's ultimately the question, right? Is what's the point of challenges, and where is the source of our happiness? Like essentially what they said is we don't want to be plugged into a machine where that machine is what causes our happiness. And it's a beautiful segue back into the continuation of the story, because we know that's not how reality is, where there's this one force that wants to give and there's this one force that wants to receive. Things aren't like that in our world today. So what happened? And essentially, that's exactly what the vessel, the receiver, said to the light and to the giver when that whole situation took place. The vessel, the receiver said, I don't want to be plugged into this machine where I automatically download happiness. I want to be someone or something or be in a situation where I have the opportunity to create my own happiness. I have the opportunity to feel that I accomplished, that I did something. And I know Arrington plays basketball. We play basketball together. And imagine I gave you a magic basketball, and that every time you shot that basketball, Arrington, it went in. How would it feel for you playing against your friends?
First couple games would be fun, but then I'd get bored pretty fast.
I love it. I love that you're real.
The like Mike sneakers, bro. It's the like Mike sneakers.
You would constantly need to be going to new courts to show off, but like it would not be fun because there's no effort. You're not getting any better. You're not playing any challenges. And I think that's ultimately how this is the continuation of the story. So what ended up happening is the vessel, the receiver said, I love creator, light, fulfillment. I love everything that you're giving me, but not this way. I want another. Say it again, Rachel.
Like I want to work for it, not just get everything and receive it. Then like what we're saying, there's no challenge, there's no sense of accomplishment. You don't feel good about yourself when someone just hands you something.
100%. And so that's ultimately what happens is the creator says, okay, I'm gonna mask, I'm gonna veil, I'm gonna hide all the goodness that I am gonna give you and I want to give you, so that you can go through a process to find out in your life where that light is, so that you can go through a challenge and say, wow, I really feel good that I was able to overcome this challenge. And you can get that fulfillment not by being plugged into a machine, not by being plugged into the light and saying, light, give me everything for free, by you being in this world and going through a moment in time that doesn't necessarily make sense or that you don't understand, and allowing yourself to go through to overcome it and eventually change it and transform it. I think it's a very different way of seeing challenges, and you don't necessarily want to run away from them, because you realize if you run away from them and you take the easy route, you're like those 97% that said, no, I don't want the easy route. I want to go through this process. I want to earn. We don't want to be plugged into that machine where everything comes easy. For me, when I learned this lesson in Kabbalah, it really changed the game, because I saw challenges so different after that.
So true. I love challenges. I don't, but like, because you know that it's there to help you grow. So it's such a good feeling, like when you overcome it.
Do you have an example, Rachel, of something that you were challenged with and you didn't see in the moment how the challenge was something good? By the way, this is the number one secret about challenges. Right now, when we're talking about it, even when you're listening to it, you can be like, yeah, you know, I'm on board. But when you hang up this call and you go and you get your first challenge after this class, all these thoughts go away and you're like, wait, this challenge, I really want to get out of this challenge really quickly. So Rachel, maybe you can
this should be on loop in your headphones all day, so that when a challenge comes up, you just remember, okay, I got it.
Actually, I had an experience recently that I felt, it was a big experience that I felt like had so many challenges that I was going through all at once. So it was like a big process for me, and I did not want to go through it. I was like totally nervous about it because I just didn't want to go through all those challenges, deal with all that stuff, procrastinate, all of that. But obviously you can't fight the process. I mean, you can, but it doesn't work out ever.
Can you share with us like a little bit of a hint of what you're talking about?
Yeah. So recently I had a foot challenges. I know. Well, I'll get more specific. Recently I had a foot surgery. And it was my first time like being in a gown and being under anesthesia and having IV and like going through any sort of like surgery, and I had to take painkillers after. Like it was just a really horrible process, but it was so amazing because it helped me with so many things. Like I still struggle with this, like the fear, the challenges I'm going to say, but it definitely like changed a lot. But basically I struggled with like appreciating the people around me, like my family and my close friends. I'm sure a lot of people, like I just take them for granted. And a huge thing, I'm like very type A personality. I don't know if people can relate to this, but I love being in control. Like I have to always be in control. So having this foot surgery, I couldn't really walk. My mom, my family, everybody had to do everything for me. And it was the hardest thing to do, like sitting there, not being able to cook my own meal or to like, I always need help with every little thing, going from
walking up the stairs,
like going from one room to the other. It was just such a challenge. And it really, I don't know, it opened my eyes to see like learning to kind of let go and learning to not be in control always. And like learning how to let the people around you take care of you, and learning how amazing like the people around me are. Everybody was doing everything for me and they weren't resenting, like so happily, helping. So it was just a really big like opportunity to change my perspective and really learn to appreciate the people around me and, let them do things for me.
Quick question for you before we jump into Arrington and Momo. You said it's your type A personality. It's hard for you to like to be in control and do things. That means probably when you first had the surgery and people were serving you meals and you needed to help get you, it was probably miserable.
It was the worst thing. Everybody's like, wow, everybody gets to take care of you. It's so nice. I was like, no, this is the worst thing. All I wanted to do was to get up and cook my own meal, was to be able to like make my own bed. Like I couldn't do anything. It was horrible.
But my question to you is, did it ever, throughout the journey, did you ever accept and say, 1 second, I'm so happy that people love me this much, and just really enjoy what they were doing for you? Did it switch from painful to enjoyable?
at one point I realized I was really resisting the process. In the beginning, I was miserable. And I was like, listen, I'm going to be doing this for like the next 2 months. Either I can hate it and try to resist, or I can just accept it and love it. And I switched, that mindset switched for me in the middle of the process. And it was awesome, because then I started really loving and appreciating and saying, thank you so much. I mean, obviously I said thank you, but, you know, like
Yeah.
really appreciating. Truly, it wasn't like before I was kind of resenting everyone. Don't help. I don't want it. I don't want the help. But it really switched my mindset, and it was so beautiful. Like it made me so much closer to the people around me.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's interesting how the challenge was the door opening for you to be able to say, I want to also receive from people in life and not just take care of people, which is really important to have both of those aspects. Momo or Arrington, do you see, like, maybe with this consciousness or with this idea or this mindset, the challenges could be good? Do you see how, you know, those challenges that you presented in discussion number 1, episode 1, do you see how they help you to evolve or to expand, or you're, Momo said he's still dealing with it, but do you see if there's any openings for how this challenge could have built you or made you happy in the long term?
So I also had a similar challenge. My sister went through foot surgery, and
that's me, if anyone doesn't know.
No, but in all seriousness, so my challenge, as said previously, was people pleasing. And so it probably started around when I turned 13, maybe a little beforehand, right before my teenage years, when, you know, you're like, okay, everybody's looking at me now, watching my development and my growth. And it's just like suddenly all this random pressure that wasn't there as a younger kid when life was just like blissfully ignorant. You're like, okay, this is the start of my growth. If I mess up here, my whole life falls apart. Da, 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 da. And so you want to be like seen as the perfect kid growing up, right? You didn't want people to see like you had issues or problems, or, you know, that you're human. You wanted to be like a super person. By you, I mean me. So that started then, and to this day, it turned into a lot of fake relationships. I realized is because all I did was just try and give and like be like this picture perfect person for them, right? And then next thing I know is, one, I resent this person because I'm like, oh my God, all I do is give, and they don't give anything back. Like, one, that's one end. Two, I resent myself because I was like, wow, I've never been real with anybody. Who am I? Like, I try to figure out, what do I want? What are my goals? What are the things I want to accomplish? And for a long time, they were basically based off of what other people thought or did or would think of me, right? And so it's actually up till very recently that I started to shift that mindset into, okay, it's okay to say no to other people. It's okay to say, I got to take care of me before I can take care of you, right? That airplane mask analogy always works, is they tell you put your own mask before helping someone else. Because if you don't put your own mask, or if you faint in the process of helping someone else, or something happens, God forbid, right? You have to take care of yourself first. And so I've been slowly shifting to that mindset, and I've seen so much transformation. One, like, my relationships with other people are far more genuine. My relationship with myself is a lot better. I don't look at myself in the mirror every morning and go, what are you doing? Who are you? What life did I create? Like, I didn't want any of this. Where did this come from? Crazy stuff like that. So it's really a matter of recognizing when we are like not losing, so to speak, but when we're not actually facing our challenge, we're just falling headfirst into giving in to the challenge and being like, okay, if the challenge is people pleasing, I don't want to fight and like have to be the bad guy to some people and be seen as the bad guy. I'm just going to give into it, you know? It'll work itself out eventually. No, sadly it won't, until I do something to change, or I do something to alter my behavior or my actions or my thoughts. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse until I'm forced into a really bad position, and then I have to change.
How did you start to identify that you were a people pleaser, or honing on that specifically?
So it started when I actually saw this random, I think it was like a video or some kind of questionnaire that said, like, what are your beliefs? What do you stand for? And I literally couldn't think of one.
Whoa.
I couldn't think of a single thing. I was like, what do I stand for? And then every time I thought back to like an argument or a fight, I was just like, yeah, you're right. I totally see what you mean. And like, I never said my own opinion. I was just too busy trying to get somebody else to like not think badly of me, or, you know, not
Wow.
start a fight for whatever reason. And I was like, wow, that kind of sucks. Not having what you stand for, what you believe in.
Yeah.
So it kind of
It's
started
really
there.
interesting when you were speaking, Mo, and you said like as you were going throughout the challenges, you just found ways to like, I don't want to fight now, so you later, right? Later. And essentially there's nothing wrong with that. And I know many people, myself included, when we're going through a challenge and we just want to numb ourselves. We just want to like, I don't want to deal with this challenge right now. I'll do something else so I don't think about it. What happens in that moment, and that's why it doesn't work. Kabbalah doesn't tell you rules that this is how you have to live your life. I mean, if you're living it this way, that Kabbalah is just explaining how this universe was created, which means we came into this universe to go through that experience. And whether we take something to help us, you know, deal with the pain or the challenge, so we don't need to deal with it right now, and eventually we came to this world to get through those things. So the only reason, like, not dealing or taking something or dating another guy to deal with the pain of the other guy, the only reason that that's a problem is not because it's a problem. It's because it just doesn't work, because eventually we'll need to face that again. We can't run from those because that's why we came here. And that was the ultimate end to the creation story, that the light created the vessel, infinite giving, infinite receiving. Amazing. The vessel then said, the receiver then said, we then said, thank you for all this like light and happiness and joy and fulfillment, you giving it to us straight like that, but give us a journey, give us a process, allow us to go through that. And eventually what happened was the vessel said no. The vessel said, I don't want this force to be in my life unless I earn, generate, create, go through something to bring this happiness, this fulfillment, this giving, this creativity into my life. So the vessel pushed back. And that's what the scientists call the Big Bang. And that's the creation of this world. The vessel saying no to the light. And then boom, physicality was created. Why? Because physicality is our opportunity to go through a process to get to the light. Like Momo said, to go through a journey to get to a place where he loves and finds his own opinions. And chances are he probably has some really powerful ones that can make a difference in the world. And that's why the creator put the challenge on people pleasing, so that he succumbs to everybody else's and never really finds his own. But then all of that gold that is in his opinions and his thoughts, I think he's creating a podcast, in my opinion, which is, I think, genius. But he wouldn't have been able to do that if he wouldn't have gotten through those challenges. So I think it's really important. And I just wanted to know if Arrington, throughout this journey, have you experienced the other side of your challenge, or how did it feel for you to go through that challenge of being really shy and the social anxiety? I think many of the people watching have it as well.
Yeah, I mean, what came to mind when you were talking about the TED Talk you watched, you said, if there was a happiness machine. And like what immediately came to my mind was, we actually already have one. It's our phones, right? These are designed to create happiness for us at any moment that we can't handle it anymore, right? So I remember when I first went to college, just as a reminder from the story, I had incredible social anxiety. I had no idea how to meet new friends. It was the first time going to a big school. I had to lock myself up in a car just to kind of catch my breath again from the social anxiety. And once the first days of classes rolled around, what made it even worse was that instead of in the hallway, when 5 minutes before class, when you're going to your marketing class, instead of being able to talk to people, now everyone was on the phone. And it was kind of the first time I started to realize, like, wow, that's going to be really hard. And so what I actually kind of forced myself to do was to try to be the weirdo that wasn't on their phone. 5 minutes before class, 10 minutes before class, when you're sitting down, and try my best. And I would pray, like, I would try my absolute best 1 out of 10 times, to say, hey, what's your name? What's your major? I'm Arrington. I just got here. I live in LA, and just try to slowly introduce myself to introducing myself. And after doing that a couple of times, it got a bit easier. I met some great friends. I've been to their graduation. We're still in touch. We brought together real friendships. And
Wow.
It was that first instance of just not even looking at my phone and trying to ignore that happiness machine in order to fight for happiness. And that's kind of what I had to do. And then later on, that translated into when I first had my first job. Now you're talking to adults, which is even scarier. Like, oh my gosh, this person's twice my age, and I'm supposed to do work for them. I'm trying to read my emails and make sure my emails and every word is correct and the grammar is typed out correctly. And even more so, that kind of started that journey of just like reading books to try to transform myself so I could try my best not to be nervous. I'm even nervous right now, right? Still speaking. To this day, I don't really love public speaking, but I try my best once I do it. And, we were talking before the episode about that Will Smith quote, right? Happiness is right on the opposite border of fear, right? Is that how it went, Mordecai?
It's on the best things in life are on the other side of terror.
On the other side of terror and fear, right? And so, and that's what's happened. A lot of my best relationships have been from overcoming that fear of just introducing myself and going through that process. So yeah, absolutely, David.
That, like, when you said, I got goosebumps, I got chills when you said I had to start introducing myself to introducing myself. Like, I'm trying to teach myself how to introduce myself to people, but that's one framework of your challenge, that social anxiety, that who's gonna want to answer when they have their, who's gonna want to talk to me when they have their happiness machine. It's like that fear, that overcoming, and then realizing, wow, like real relationships were cultivated on the other end of my social anxiety. Like above that terror was, real friendships and real happiness it's powerful. Thank you for sharing.
By the way, I just want to add the happiness machine. When we're using the happiness machine, we're actually depressed. It's like, it's more the numb machine.
It's the escape, right?
It's the escape. It's the numb machine.
Whether you're feeling
just
bored,
in case somebody's
thinking
thinking this as they're watching, going, wait a sec, that's not a happiness machine. That's a numb machine. I look through Instagram and I'm depressed. Look at how much happier these people are than me. I look through like whatever social media network and I'm seeing like this force-fed universe that doesn't actually exist. And somehow I'm still not a part of it.
It's just interesting, and that's why I think it's so beautiful about Kabbalah, and I think we're going to discuss this in future talks and future topics, is that it's no right and wrong. This world wasn't created to be plugged into a happiness machine. We were plugged into the happiness machine back then, in the endless, as a force, as a vessel. We received everything. We said, we don't want that reality. Let's be in a reality where we can create it. So anything that reminds us of that reality, of the free reality. So let's say it's drugs. Let's say just find the next thing that's going to take me out of it. Let's say it's my phone. It's not that those things are bad. It's that when those things become the source, I'm plugging myself in, then I'm numbing myself from the journey that I need to be going on in this world, when we asked to be put in this world for that reason. So it's not bad or good. It's just a reminder. And that's why in the long term, it doesn't work and it doesn't pay off. Because if we came to this world to enjoy to the max, then that would be the thing that everybody's doing. But everybody in the world has to go through some sort of challenge. And it's because that's what we came to this world to do and to overcome. So I just think that framework of understanding life through in what part of our life is like the endless world where we just get things for free. The endless world is great, by the way, and there's another session we'll have about that. But the free aspect of it, no challenge, no work, no earning, I want things. It reminds us that it doesn't make us happy long term. Going through those challenges, earning the real friends that come through fighting social anxiety, earning my real opinion that comes through, pushing myself and giving my opinions away for free. The real ability to receive, so that I can be in a relationship in the future, in a relationship where someone takes care of me, not where I'm controlling everything. That had to come through me looking like a controlling person. And all of our challenges are really what create who we really are. So I think if we switch our view of challenges, it's a really big support.
100%.
Anything to add, guys, before we send them to episode 3, which is how we actually get through the challenges in the moment, it's really important. So anything to add, guys?
I think we pretty much nailed it.
Yeah.
Okay, good, guys. So thank you all so much for coming. Rachel, Momo, Arrington, thank you so much for everybody that's watching right now. And hopefully you're getting lots of value and reframing the way you see your challenges. And we'll see you in episode 3. We're going to talk about practical tools to get through the challenge, but I'm going through it right now. See you guys soon.